Hey guys, it's Parker with Desert Hub, and we've got a new video to work on today. We've got a new information with Daum Europe, and a guy on YouTube, his name was Private Wiggles. His video's actually not been viewed that many times, and it's kind of interesting that that's true because he's talked to these devs a couple of times now, it seems. And he got some pretty interesting information out of them. So let's the Black Minus Desert website. They got all the information from the conversation, and they've put it in a nice detailed question and answer list as per the usual. And I just want to take a few minutes here and as quickly as possible go through their answers, and they've mainly discussing the launch of the game and how everything kind of tied in, and what their thoughts on future content, current content, and where they plan on going, and how to address issues or concerns that the current player base for the NA and EU regions see and are having versus what the Korean version is going through. As well as we're going to be discussing what they saw and what they were talking about regarding the IP ban for other countries, because that's been a major thing. There have been many petitions against and for unlocking the game for everybody else to play. It's a great game, and a lot of other people around the world have been really wanting to get into it and play it. And now there's people that have seen the game launch, and they're finally starting to hear about it come out, even for the first time, and they're complete SOL. They're shit out of luck, man. They want to be able to play the game, and they can't. And many people had their reason for why, and it's a little more simple, but at the same time, it's simple telling somebody, but for them, it's a lot more complicated. So we're going to get into that today as well. So yeah, let's just go ahead and dive right into it. So question one, how do you think the launch went? Launch of the game. I mean, it's been a little while now, and we're finally getting some good answers on that. And basically what they're saying is it went how they wanted it to go, and they're sorry that there were some issues here and there with items being redeemed or things like that, but the game went apparently much more popular than they had anticipated. And they weren't ready for that many people to join the game. And you can say your 2 cents on that about how you feel, and if they're seeing how many people are pre-ordering the game, then they should have an idea of how many people are going to be jumping in early or at the official launch. But regardless, they weren't 100% ready, and I don't think and they say this, no game company's 100% ready for how many people are going to hit their servers and how their servers are going to respond to that much real life, real time, log in, log out, computer errors, this, that, and the other. They're even saying that it was basically it DDoS their website at launch. It was pretty hectic for them at the time, and that was pretty interesting. But all in all, I think from what I've seen in the community pages, as well as YouTube videos along with it, everybody had a pretty solid launch. And I think the biggest issue for Black Desert, and that's been since Korea, even in the alphas and the pre-betas and the whatever you want to call them, was simply installing the game. For some reason, installing the game can, for some people, be very challenging or just pose weird random errors. But I don't think it's something. It's something very minor, and that can be handled with just a little bit of time and patience. I know a lot of people, even myself, sometimes you just don't have the patience to run through everything, but it's much more minor than the game actually being completely unplayable at launch, such as server lag or whatever. And there have been some issues with lag in the past, here recently. But I think they're doing the best they can to, mitigate that and fix that up. So let's move on to the next one. Has the game been popular as you had hoped, or has it been more popular? We just said that. It's been way more popular than they had anticipated. This game's been hyped up for as long as I've even realized its existence fully. Question 3. One of the quite popular questions has been about texture popping in and how they're going to fix texture popping. We've all seen that. Quite frankly, it doesn't bother me that much. Some people, it's like, oh my god, there's so much texture pop in. It's like the Unreal 3 engine or whatever. It's not, obviously the game's not running on the Unreal 3 engine. It's using its own engine, but texture pop in, that's how it's handling the load sequence of the game. That's just how the game was designed, I believe. And they didn't realize that it was going to pose so many issues for so many people, and so they may have to go in and change some information on the rendering system for the game in order to fix that. I don't think it's going to be a really simple fix, otherwise they probably would have done that months and months ago, probably even in the Korean version. Let's see, what do we got next? Is there a completely separate EU and NA team, or do they just sort of pass the information on the Korean team and let them work out the issues? Basically, their team is, let's see, last I checked, Pearl Abyss and the team in the NA and EU sector, they're combined, they're only about, at most, 300 people. I mean, it's very few people working. I'm not sure if they cut out a whole bunch of people after the game initially got out of its real heavy phase of launching in Korea, but I mean, we're talking a very small group of people as far as I'm concerned. I don't know the average development team size for a game, but I'm pretty sure there's usually a little more than 100 people per sector. But in AEU, it could be understandable considering it's a completely new realm for this company. Daum has been around for a lot longer, but Pearl Abyss, they're still new at this. They haven't really done that much in the game world yet. They're still, fresh. Let's move on to the next one. Are there any plans to open up the game to other countries? They're trying to. They're working on a global system in Korea, but right now the system, I mean, you can read this yourself. I'm sure you may already have, and you're just looking for some explanation, and I'm here to give it to you. In their quote, you're allowed to publish the game in XYZ countries and nothing else. Okay, well, when they make a contract with a publisher or whatever, they have to pick which ones. They can only have so many zones to publish a game in. It costs to publish games in other places. Rules, regulations, censoring, non-censoring, ratings, all kinds of stuff come into factor for these things. And it's not a 100% legality issue necessarily, it's just they've got to figure out how to get their contract added to, or otherwise to include the countries that are being IP banned right now. They set up a contract. They couldn't pick up everybody at once. Now they're trying to fix it, and their contract just isn't letting them. They have to find a way to get around this contract and come to some sort of agreement. I'm assuming with Daum, and then whoever Daum has to talk to all of these other countries. It's like they've said here before in this, it's like when you come to certain places like Estonia and Ukraine, they are technically falling under the Russian contract of the game, not the Korean and not the EU or NA. It might be technically, in a manner of speaking, in the EU, but because of the way the publishing works, it apparently falls under the Russian contract, because that's where Daum Russia decided to pick them up. They said that, okay, well, we're going to put Estonia and Ukraine in the Russian version of the game, so only the Russian version of the game can be played there. Maybe that's basically what they're saying. So if you're in Estonia or Ukraine as their example, and you want to play the EU and NA, you're stuck. You can't, because Estonia and Ukraine have the Russian version of the game. They're trying to work on a global service, but the thing with the global service, that's not our version. That's not the EU and NA version that we're all focused on right now. That's not the buy-to-play version. At least not at the moment. We have no idea what they're doing. And even these guys have no idea what they're doing. They're kind of keeping their lips locked about it. It's just they need to have time to work out this global server, and I'm assuming it's just an international version of sorts. But you know, if they come out with an international version of the game, what was the point in the first place of releasing all these sub versions? You know, and if they do a replication of our version, that's fine. But does that mean that they're going to incorporate their servers into our version of the game as well? Or is it going to be its own freestanding version for all these other countries taken out? And if that's the case, and all these people they may want to play the game, but that means that they're probably going to be stuck, still not being able to play with people that are drawing them to play the game in the first place. So there's that. But that gives us a little insight on a little bit more of the steps running to releasing the game in the countries that are being IP blocked right now. Alright, question 6. In-game cash shop. That's a huge thing right now. Everybody wants to know what's going on with the cash shop, what's going to be going into the cash shop. Is it pay to win? Is it not pay to win? Is it going to become pay to win? They're trying to keep it as non-pay to win as possible. They're trying to take out all and block all of the pay to win concepts that they're seeing from the Korean version, and just either keeping them from coming in general, or trying to create a way to implement these items in a way that doesn't involve the cash shop, and come up with a method for getting it in-game, which is perfectly fine. I'm glad to see that they're doing that. The cash shop is probably the most sensitive thing you can have in an MMO, especially one who's got a balance system that's so open-ended, because it's a sandbox MMO. When you start adding in certain things, and the prices are already, they're pretty steep. So that's going to keep a lot of people from dumping in piles of money. But I've already seen guys who've dumped $600 in the game like day 1 or day 2. So there's people out there that are still definitely willing to put in the money to get whatever they want to, just because they can. I mean, if you have a job that pays you X amount of money, and you've got Y amount of money to put into it because you want to, and that's what you're having fun doing, then, I mean, that's kind of their business. I mean, but at the same time, we don't want it to be their business to, just wipe the floor with you just because they have a much better job than you do, or job at all. So anyway, they're taking their precautions. They try to make sure everything coming into the game is as fair and not pay to win, but at the same time, as they just said at the end of this, they're trying to keep all new content and updates free as much as possible. But there are certain features in the game that are a cash shop only concept, because in their wording, because in the end we are still running a business and we need to make revenue. It's simple as that. They're a business. I don't understand why people don't understand this. Oh, I don't understand why they're making us pay $30 or €30 or whatever amount of money it ends up being, when all the other versions are free. The version of our game that we are getting is being more refined, doubly looked over, and edited to fit a Western playstyle, and what the beta testers, the alpha testers, have come in, looked over, come from the Korean version that they already got to play, I already got to play, and are editing the game in such a manner to make it fit what we had originally intended it to be. They had originally pitched it to be a hardcore MMO for someone that is either good at video games in general or a veteran at MMOs in general. Okay? But they're still going to flip you on your head, they're going to stick you in the game, and they're going to give you something to work on. Because you've not seen anything like this before. I promise you. they still have to make money. Where do you think all of these versions of the games, how do you think they make these games? They don't just face roll a keyboard, out comes a game, and then they expect to make no money on it. That doesn't make any sense. The video game companies, the video game market as a whole, doesn't function on free. Nothing it does. Nothing does. Somebody has to pay money somewhere to get something done, regardless. Okay? That's just how these things work. It's nothing against one company, one race, one area in particular. And there's nothing to do with any of that. They've got to find a way to make money. And the West, mainly, I don't know anything about the EU and how. I understand that their market is apparently really bad right now. The British pound is not very good right now. However, whatever your currency is at the moment isn't doing very well right now. Well, regardless of how the economy is doing in the U.S., they still find a way to put out a lot of money into a game. They don't care. They will go bankrupt just to put money into a game that they're playing. You've seen it in China's little. You've seen it in Korea's little game shops where people sit down and end up killing themselves because they're playing a game for so long. I mean, the same thing applies here. We'll play ourselves bankrupt if we feel the need to. And this game's big enough, open world enough, just expansive and in depth and immersive, whatever that word even means sometimes. It just, there's always money to be had with our market. And they're more willing to pay for something and it be good rather than have to play something for free and it be, completely pay to win or broken or simple or whatever, when the original pitching of the game was to be hardcore in the first place. We're trying to get the game in a method that pitches what we were originally seeing. During the Korean alphas, during the CBT1 and CBT2. We're that's not where we're going exactly, but it's beating around the bush of what we're trying to get to. We're trying to reach a common ground and a common set. And in order for us to change these things, money's going to have to be handled. Okay, that's how these things work. They've got to be able to make their money, and they've done well. They've done that. I mean, over 300,000 pre-orders, and a calculatable percentage got that $100 pack. I got the $50 pack, and I almost got the $100 pack. I bought the game for one of my friends, and I've had a few other people very interested in trying it out and potentially buying it for themselves. It's not everybody's cup of tea. We understand that, of course. I mean, not every game everybody likes. But anyway, we're getting on a tangent here. So let's move on to the next one, and we'll keep moving. Auto looping. This is always interesting. I didn't really know a whole lot about this beforehand, but evidently, when you pull up your world map in the game, you set a waypoint. And you set another waypoint, and you can essentially run in circles using your auto path. You're literally auto pathing in a circle. And the idea with this was to catch up on your strength, your stamina, any form of moving. So basically movement farming, essentially. You're seeing people right now, the only way they can do this is to look at a wall, run into the wall, and set something down, or set up a macro to hold shift down to do their stamina, or just hold down move while running with a pack to get their strength up. So currently, the auto looping feature that people are looking for, it's in the works. They're trying to get it out, and but right now they don't really see the need in putting it in right now because the mint was for it to catch up. It's for playing catch up. When you have Medea and the Valencia patches all in, there's a huge amount of content ahead of where you're starting from. big level gap, big armor curve, weapons, damage, skills, all of that. Just a massive level gap, really. And in order to catch up to these things, especially when you hit 50, all of your experience and stuff becomes weighted, and you have to have time to get these things built up. It's going to take a while, especially if you end up rushing to 50. It's probably the worst thing you could possibly do because everything becomes weighted, and it takes much longer to get any of these things done. At least that's the rumor going around anyway. So they're going to add it in, I believe, and I'm sure they will relatively soon because, you know, all of their DLC content is actually honestly not too far away. We're going to get into that in just a little bit. But they can't commit to it right now, but the likelihood of them adding it in is pretty high with the amount of people really wanting some form of auto looping in. Any dates we could expect more content? The DLC, I just mentioned that 5 seconds ago. So anyway, with that said, basically they're saying very soon. They're keeping it vague just because, you know, hype and all that. You know, they gotta build hype, that's their job, whatever. So, very soon. But you can expect small to medium-sized and even large content updates nearly monthly. That's, I mean, there was a couple of posts on this recently about that specifically, monthly. That's really good to hear, honestly. That'll catch us up to Korea much faster than, you know, something like Terra would, where you have to wait 6 months before you get a content patch. And you get patches in between, but they're dinky little balance changes here and there. And it's just, why do that? Why wait so long between content updates when you already know what the content update essentially is? You're just trying to, I don't even know, hope something miraculously changes between now and then. Not really. That's not how this works, guys. I mean, a monthly system like this actually works pretty well, because I mean, we kind of have our roadmap of what's going to happen, but it looks to be like they're kind of trying to be changing it up and maybe not release things in the same order, because it also looks like they're going to try to gather a few of the small day-to-day patches together and drop them once, rather than having so reducing the amount of individual patches after maintenance or whatever, and just doing like, okay, here's a content drop for this date, and then, you know, a few days in line, here's a, you know, next month or whatever, here's another bigger content update. You know, and so that way we'll have, you know, maybe 2 or 3 medium to large content updates, and then, you know, boom, here comes the big one, you know, the Medea or the Valencia 1 or 2 blah 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 patch that, you know, adds an entire area to the map and adds a class or 2 to it, you know, and then who knows what they do with, you know, unique content, new races, new classes, and how that'll affect. Who knows if that stuff even needs to come through the Korean version first for testing, you know. Who knows if we're going to be used as guinea pigs for new content. I'm getting the feeling that they might at some point, but I don't know. It's kind of risky to do that because everybody over here seems to be sitting on a wall 24/7 as to whether or not they want to or not want to. But I don't know, that tends to be forum posts anyway. Everybody seems to sit on a wall for forum posts. Oh, if they add this, I'm dropping the game. Oh, and a lot of times they either do or they don't. I mean, it's kind of a toss up on that. So let's keep moving. Blader, Ninja, Blader, and the Ninja and the Kunoichi. Those are considered major content patches, I guess. I don't really see why, but I guess they are. Honestly, it kind of seems like they don't really care for the Ninja that much. Like, it was like because they kind of claimed it as like a one-off thing because of the release of the Japanese version. That seems kind of stereotypical, don't you think? I mean, I don't know. Whatever. I mean, I don't really care. They're awesome. All these classes that they released are completely awesome. And I know a lot of people really want the Blader and Blum. Still don't understand why it's called the plum. I'm not sure if that was from a translation, and that's just what people start calling it. Why don't just call it the female blader? And also don't understand why you can't just select blader and then click female. They're pretty much identical, aren't they? I mean, they seem to be anyway. I haven't played them both individually. Anyway, so they're trying to decide when they want to release it, and they're not sure if they're going to release it before or after something else. So maybe not in the same order as Korea. That's what I was just saying earlier. Nothing's set in stone yet, as they say. So, catch-up features, they're kind of reiterating questions, just so if they could get a real answer out of them. Nothing to catch up to. I mean, it's pretty obvious. There's no Badia, there's no Valencia, there's no whatever the new content will be, which is supposed to be like an elf area. I could make a video on that later if you really wanted me to. I'll have to know in the comments or personal messages or whatever on Facebook. So there's nothing to catch up to. There's no new gear, no new content, so there's nothing to catch up to. There's no need for these, like the auto looping or stuff. That's their reasoning behind it anyway. And that's fair. That's fair enough. I mean, why the necessary to hard grind everything? You're gonna end up being, you know, that soft cap level of 50 to 55 or whatever on every class, and then you'll be sitting there with your thumb up your ass waiting for something new to come out. That's not going to be fun at all. You need to kind of pace yourself out, don't you think? I mean, pace yourself out. Get these quests done. Build your character up. That's the point for 1 to 50. You got to build your class up. Do these quests, get that contribution, get the energy. Earn some money, build your life. That's kind of how this game works. You have to have a lifespan through the game before you really get to 50. Rushing that 50 it isn't productive to your stats overall because you get weighted, like I was talking about earlier. So let's keep going on. The die system seems quite RNG based, and some people are very concerned about it. We'll be getting a new MERV system like in Korea. Basically, they don't really know. They don't even have an estimated time on that. But they've seen the requests, and they're going to be sending them to Pearl Abyss and Daum and whatever else to take a look into the die system and see if they can release. I guess the other way I can see it is just to release like solid colors. I mean, they've got a few solid colors out there that you can already get, but I don't really understand why. Dye is something that seems pretty irrelevant to me. I mean, there's a few colors that you can get that are neat. Well, I don't really understand the whole super specific coloration kind of deal. But, yeah, I mean, aside from just releasing solid colors and then letting you mix them using the palette system, I guess. That's the only thing I could see fixing this whole RNG system. Or maybe fixing the rate at how RNG it is, maybe. And moving on quickly here, 12. Pet breeding system. Will we be getting the system? When are we going to get the system? That kind of thing. There's no details on that. I mean, it's too new. You guys have to realize that when content is announced in Korea, you're probably not going to see it for quite some time unless it's really simplistic. I mean, they're going to try to collect patches, small patches, big patches, or whatever, and release them all at once. At least that's the seeming concept that they're going with here. Which, again, like I said, was a good thing. As annoying as it may be. You're not going to be able to get the Korean stuff immediately. That's why it's taken this long to get the game in the first place. So, let's see here. Bringing awakening weapons to NA and EU. Is it going to be staggered? Is it going to be released all at once? They're trying to figure out overpowering other classes. Like, when one class gets awakening and none of the other classes have it, that one class tends to be a little bit OP compared to the other classes. Because, they have twice as amount of skills that they can accomplish. And their DPS goes up tenfold from doing this. I mean, the freaking tamer is what I'm waiting for, and the tamer just turns into freaking badass mode the moment she pulls that staff out, and she just flip back and forth between the two willy-nilly. All these classes can do that with their new awakening stuff. So, and it doesn't look like the Blader or the Ninja are getting that right now. For some reason, it seems like they're not particularly interested in awakening those guys, and they probably will need to. Otherwise, they're gonna get kind of dumped on over time, unless they just start raising their base stats along with it, which is kind of ridiculous. So, something will need to be done to get some form of awakening for every class. They're gonna have to. I mean, don't start something and then don't finish it. You know. I'm sure you guys would agree with that, right? Okay, so let's see. I'd like to go more in depth on that, but really, it's pretty cut and dry on that. Just they want to make sure that the game itself doesn't. They're taking their time to see, you know, with internal testing or whatever, how these awakenings actually affect the class directly. If it just kind of alters is it heavily altering the mechanics of the game, or is it simply just a damage output increase? You know, that kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. And so next we got, like, what are your thoughts on the ghillie suit and any plans to change it and level it as it is? So the ghillie suit, this is a huge little article here about that, but they're talking about the, like, colorblind people, you know, those of you that are colorblind out there, and, you know, all the things that the ghillie suit does English when you put it on. And they're trying to go through all of the feedback and suggestions that people have given them on how to either mitigate its effects, balance it out, you know, and some people just want to do away with it completely, but at this point you're SOL on that, I think. So the one that they seem to like the most at this point is a potion through alchemy that I can't quite tell if he means, like, where when you take the potion you can see them, or you take the potion and you get the same effects as having the ghillie suit on. I think either way it kind of levels it out the same way, defense or offense. Why not make one that does either or? Not both would be a bad idea, but one or the other, I would think. So that really kind of sums that mess up. And then they're talking about the dog. This is actually kind of like two articles in one. The dog and its special ability with identifying players, hostile players near you, or when they're getting near you. That's not really something I need to really cover, I don't think, at the moment. Let's see here. Let's keep going. They want to know about the player base and the Q&As and the communication to the player base. You know how, I don't know, any of you that are follow Terra at all, they do YouTube videos all the time. They live stream their game. They cover all of the new major patches and give a little sneak peek to what's coming up, which is a very good system to have. But it does take some manpower and some time and preparation to get that stuff taken care of. And like I said, they're a very small team, so good Lord knows if they ever get to that point. But that they want to, and I think they'll get to that point. So, and they say that they're going to get to that point. They're hoping. They're hoping they get to, like, Twitch and some blog content and some roadmaps and things like that. And let's see here. We've got the bug for 25 FPS in full screen mode and 50. I've not seen that. I don't use complete full screen mode. I use windowed full screen mode. I have no idea I've not really benchmarked my FPS, but I get pretty good FPS generally with my 960. Um, this guy, in fact, I just got some new parts. I was gonna mention here. I got some new RAM and a new SSD. So that will I'm gonna be putting Black Desert on that this new ADATA SSD. So yeah, that's my weird shoot off tangent on that for a second there. And anyway, let's move along with our list some more. Get through this. Any other ways to combat gold sellers? They've got many options. They're looking through many options on how to get the gold sellers to go away and stop them. But it's because their game is so popular right now. They're just flocking to it nonstop. Now the thing for me is I don't understand. You know, you've got blocking people, and then you've got request chat ban. When you do a chat ban, it originally cost 30 energy to do, and then they recent patched it to where it only consumed 15 energy. To me, it seemed like if I just blocked somebody, all of their chats disappeared regardless, and no energy consumes. Why not just block somebody? What the hell is the point of requesting a chat ban? A mediator, a moderator should be able to see that and do that on their own. Hell, there's a system in Terra that only lets you global chat like 4 times before they make you just sit down, puppy. You're gonna have to wait a few seconds or a few minutes, depending on how quickly you do it. So I just block all these guys. I'm putting them on my B list and just call it done, and I don't ever really seem to see them anymore until a new one shows up. I'm not sure. I haven't really looked into that big. Doesn't really bother me that much. It pops up. Sure, it breaks some immersion for anyone doing with RP. So I don't know. That just my recommendation: block them. Don't bother with the chat ban. Too much energy. Not enough time in the day. So let's see here. Keep moving forward. Boss loot. World bosses. How does the world boss loot work? Is it purely damage based, or are there other things? I'm saying that there's a ton of stuff involved. How long you're in combat with it? How much damage do you deal? How many times do you die? When did you come to the fight? That kind of thing. They're saying that at one point there was a boss that had over 300 people at the boss. That's a lot of people for one boss, and quite frankly, probably too many. But beside the point, I don't even know how that works really. Not gotten that far, unfortunately. So I'll help you guys as much as I can until I get to that point. But anyway, so basically, they're trying to analyze the demographic and see how people behave around the boss, what time they show up around the boss, versus what kind of loot they get, and seeing if they can, tweak those settings. So, 2-step authentication for system and accounts. I don't like 2-step authentication. It's annoying, it's time consuming, and it's just a pain in the ass. I don't understand how people get their accounts hacked so much. Like, if there's like one person that gets hacked multiple times, that literally makes no sense to me. I have never had an issue where my account was tampered with. Never. I've never had that problem. One thing I've really seemed to have that problem with is Sony. Interesting. They're always requesting me to change my password for some reason, which is pretty funny. Whatever. Anyway, so that's not the point. So they're looking to increase their security in some method. They're just gonna see what people feel about it, how people feel about doing that. Because personally, I hate putting in that ridiculous code for the Korean version. We've got this. We've got to log in, log out, that bullshit. I personally, I feel like that's enough. I mean, Terra, I always refer to Terra because that was the most recent MMO I played, so sorry if you don't like Terra, but Terra has their account armor thing where you log in, and if you log in from a computer that they're not familiar with, they make you have to put in a code that they send you to your email. So maybe implement something like that. You know, call it Daum shield or abyss blocker or something stupid like that. Let's see, what do we got? When's the first castle siege? No idea. Bounty hunter system? No idea. Cyclops questing? They're looking into it? No idea. There's just things that they haven't gotten to yet. I mean, there's only so much time in a day, you know? So, and that's what they do with these question and answer things. They beat around the bush, or they don't answer things directly, you know? So let's see, energy system, NA and EU, or a system similar to Korea. So will the energy system stay the same, or is it going to slowly change to the Korean version? It's staying the same. I mean, you've got what you got, and that's how it works. End of story. And that's for the better. I like this. This energy system works. I understand it now. I don't really think it needs to be altered at all, unless something crucial happens to gameplay later on. Warrior grapple issue. They said they're spending a lot of time analyzing everybody's specific data on when that happens, how that happens, you know, and how it's affecting other classes or whatever. So they're still working on that once they're testing it. Once they test it themselves more. Once I test it for myself. See? So anyway, that's the rough rundown on all of these issues, changes, and just the Q&A with these developers and from the European version of the game. And I hope you guys enjoyed this information. I thought it was pretty neat. It was worth a good read, but usually I have to take these with a clear grain of salt, because they always beat around the bush and they never really answer all that precisely, because a lot of the questions we end up having for them, they're not going to tell you this super early on. They usually like to surprise people. It's PR. That's how they get hype in the game. That's how they keep people's attention focused on these things. So, with that said, be looking forward to more content. I get them up as soon as I can. I've got a full-time job now, so I'll have to kind of face it out as I can. I hope you guys have a good one, and we'll see you in the next one.